Rebecca has joined the night shift at a very old hospital in Mexico. She had no idea that many unpleasant events were linked to this hospital. As night falls, a shadow of unknown terror descends. As time passes, strange and disturbing things happen to Rebecca, turning her life into hell. Today's story is about a widely popular urban legend in Mexican folklore, which still bears witness to some true events. So, let's begin the explanation of the Mexican movie Turno Nocturno. The year is 1979, Mexico City. A girl named Rebecca Luna Garcia has come to Juarez Hospital for a nurse's interview. It's a 12-hour night shift. While reviewing her CV, head nurse Hortensia notices she hasn't worked for the past 4 years. Upon asking, she learns Rebecca couldn't work because she was taking care of her father. But he is now dead. Rebecca is a very religious person, a believer in the ideals of Saint Agatha. Since most of her time was spent caregiving, neither love nor friendship ever happened for her. To Hortensia, as a disciplined nurse who follows rules, she is a perfect candidate. So, she is hired from tonight and placed in the critical unit for her probation period. After Hortensia introduces her to everyone, the last person to reach out is Dr. Dalton. He shows her some old photos from the gallery and says that as the oldest hospital in Mexico, it has been rebuilt many times. Even during the 1957 earthquake, many staff members, doctors, and patients died. While arranging her locker in the rest room, Garcia looks at the blade-cut scars on her legs and reminisces. While ironing her dress, she meets 2 colleagues, Luciana and Paulo. When they address her as Garcia, based on her ID card, her discomfort grows. She is used to the name Rebecca. The 2 engage in some minor hazing and explain the rules of the night shift so she doesn't fall victim to La Planchada. Rules like, nothing should be forgotten, one cannot be distracted, no conflicts or relationships with coworkers, and absolutely no sleeping during night duty. Let me explain this part a bit. La Planchada is one of Mexico's most famous urban legends. The word planchada means an ironed uniform. It implies someone who is always perfect and obsessed with discipline. According to folklore, years ago, a nurse worked at a large hospital in Mexico. She was extremely strict and couldn't stand rule-breaking. She was a nightmare for lazy nurses or negligent staff. Some say she was betrayed in love. Others say she died of overwork and neglect. Her spirit supposedly still haunts the hospital corridors during night shifts. She appears to those who slack off. So, before starting her duty, Rebecca steals all her documents from Mr. Archuro's drawer. Why she did that, we'll find out later. She begins taking care of every patient with precision, medicine, and dressing. It is now midnight. Rebecca suddenly hears a song in the corridor. Who could be singing this late? She goes to check but finds no one, though the sound seemed very close. Rebecca doesn't give it much importance and focuses on work. However, while working quickly, some medicine spills on her dress. She goes to the locker room to change and sees someone has opened her locker. Seeing nothing is stolen, her suspicion grows, and suddenly she notices someone standing outside. Fearing the worst, she steps out, but the corridor is empty. Feeling a strange unease, she goes back to change, only to hear the distinct sound of high heels walking outside. Terrified, she peeks out and sees a shadowy figure walking very slowly toward the door, then vanishing. The sound stops on its own. Rebecca wastes no time. On her next round, she checks Mr. Seabass and is surprised. The man who was just crying in pain is now perfectly fine. He says a nurse in a black dress just came and gave him an injection. Confused, she checks the register and finds the signature E written there. Furious that someone touched her patient in her absence, she blames Luciana. Luciana claims she has enough patients of her own, so why would she come here? It could be the work of an on-duty doctor or else La Planchada. As Luciana leaves, the corridor lights begin to blink, and she hears the singing. A shadow approaches her, and suddenly the emergency alarm goes off. Patient has severe chest pain. Since the doctor is late, she performs basic treatment, and the pain subsides. Just then, Dr. Suarez arrives and insults her, saying if nurses did the treatment, doctors wouldn't be needed. Rebecca, startled, shows Suarez the name in the register, but he says he knows no one by that name. Suarez warns her, if things go wrong, she'll be transferred to the reception or cafeteria. Rebecca's days pass in a mix of work and disrespect. 2 weeks later, she runs into her childhood friend, Ariana. Rebecca feels awkward because she didn't know Ariana worked the day shift here. Ariana addresses her as Maria, but she tells her not to call her that, as she doesn't want anyone at work to know that name. Ariana invites her for coffee, but Rebecca leaves without answering. During her shift, a new patient arrives needing immediate surgery. Such a surgery has only been done once in Mexico, so it's vital for the hospital's reputation. Since they are short-staffed, Rebecca has to assist. She agrees and goes down, finding a receptionist dozing off. She wakes her up and reminds her of the rules. It is around 8:30 p.m. Before starting the surgery, Dalton introduces Rebecca to all the instruments. While the start is fine, a blade accidentally enters the patient's internal body due to Dalton's negligence, causing heavy bleeding. As he asks Rebecca for medicine, she hears someone singing. Looking into the shadows, she shudders in fear. A terrifying nurse in a black dress and mask is approaching her, trying to explain something with her finger. Hearing Rebecca's scream, the patient suddenly sits bolt upright, and his internal organs begin to spill out. Rebecca manages to lay him back down as the doctor removes the blade. The patient stabilizes, but the blame falls entirely on Rebecca. In the changing room, Rebecca prays to Mother Mary for today's injustice. She has turned her locker into a prayer hall. Suddenly, the other lockers open on their own. To calm herself, Rebecca cuts her leg with a blade, and the doors close. It is 3 a.m. The receptionist is deep in sleep. Suddenly, footsteps are heard. The mysterious nurse is standing at the other end of the hall, whispering for her to wake up. When the girl wakes up and looks in the mirror, she sees 5 finger marks on her cheek. Since no one was around, she thinks it was Rebecca's work, but her mistake is soon corrected. The next day, while talking to Ariana, manager Arturo arrives and asks Rebecca to submit her documents because they think they are lost. Meanwhile, Dalton is on his own mission, flirting with Rebecca whenever he gets a chance. He indirectly implies that if she provides special services, her work pressure will decrease and she can manage her shifts as she likes. While he speaks, Rebecca sees the nurse again, and a ceiling light shatters. They barely escape. Rebecca notices a photo from 1875 of nurses wearing the same dress as the mysterious figure. She suspects a spirit of one of these nurses is haunting her. The next day, she sits to pray in front of the photos and notices Dr. Dalton hanging out with Luciana. It didn't take long to recognize people. She composes herself and focuses on prayer, but Hortensia stops her, saying this doesn't belong in a hospital. She explains that the more she thinks about La Planchada, the more she will feel her presence. This fear will help her follow rules during probation. Later, she meets Ariana again. Every day it feels like Ariana is hiding something, and today it becomes public. Ariana never thought she would meet Rebecca here. Hesitatingly, Ariana reveals a secret. Rebecca's father had done bad things to her, and they even had a relationship. Hearing this, Rebecca is shocked and gets lost in her own thoughts. Only one phrase comes out of her mouth. Maybe that's why they said not to talk to colleagues. Later, Dalton tries to get a favor from Rebecca, and she insults him regarding the Luciana matter. To take revenge, Dalton enters the changing room and behaves indecently. Rebecca slaps him, but Dalton punches her and leaves. Rebecca is so hurt that she throws the statue of Mother Mary. Supernatural activity begins. Lockers open one by one. Rebecca calms herself by inserting her ID card into the wound on her leg to bring herself back to consciousness. At this stage, we see her behaving strangely. At night, a 16-year-old girl named Vanessa, injured in a car accident, is brought to the emergency unit. While she is given medicine, Rebecca notices Vanessa flirting with Dalton in her daze. She doesn't say anything then, but it stays in her head all night. When Dalton checks the patient and behaves rudely, Rebecca asks why she is being treated this way despite being on probation. Dalton reminds her of the slap. Later, what she thought comes true. Dalton injects Vanessa and gets physical with her, which Rebecca watches while hiding. Just then, in the empty corridor, she feels the nurse's presence. Rebecca sees a human back right behind the photo of Mother Mary in her locker, covered in stitches. It feels like someone is trying to claw their way out. The environment grows heavy with the sound of the nurse's footsteps. Rebecca's body turns cold, and a terrifying event occurs. After this, a huge change comes over Rebecca. Her past trauma, current injustice, and unethical events in the hospital haunt her constantly. While heading to the critical unit, an unseen force pushes a medical tray toward her. Fearing this, she tells Dalton, but he refuses to believe. When checking patients, she sees Seabass trying to say something with gestures. Then a terrifying scene is revealed. Vanessa has mutilated her own face with a surgical knife. Dalton manages the situation, but when police officers arrive, they suspect either an overdose or self-harm. A guard is stationed there until the police arrive. With this, Rebecca's probation ends, but as last night's event goes public, Vanessa's family is interviewed. Competitors also target Juarez Hospital for unethical practices. Some patients are shifted, and staff take leave. Dr. Suarez taunts Rebecca because Vanessa was in her unit. All these events affect her over time, whether it's the doctors or the guards' rude behavior. Rebecca knew what happened to Vanessa was due to Dalton's overdose, which might never come out. When the investigating officer arrives, Dalton tries to frame Rebecca. When they come to question her, she makes an excuse and leaves. But as the officer leaves, Rebecca sees Dalton and Luciana getting intimate and hears the mysterious song again. In the evening, a technician is sent to install CCTV. But Dalton doesn't stop. He assaults Rebecca in the restroom to teach her a lesson. Dalton notices someone standing outside. Rebecca looks that way, hoping the nurse's spirit will save her, but she doesn't help. A knock on the door scares Dalton away, and Rebecca realizes it was a hospital staff member, not the nurse. In her hatred, rage, and humiliation, Rebecca loses her self-identity. She questions Mother Mary, why her every time? Soon, supernatural activities begin. A strange darkness slowly consumes her. The ghostly nurse's presence physically and mentally wounds her. Suddenly, she sees someone beckoning from within the stitches of the wound in her locker. In her daze, Rebecca opens the stitches and enters a supernatural world. There she finds an old newspaper reporting the death of a nurse named Eulalia Estrada at Juarez Hospital. She had killed a doctor and multiple patients before killing herself. Rebecca now realizes the E signature was hers. She hears the song. Nurse Eulalia is ironing her dress, just like Rebecca does every day. Eulalia says hypocrisy has grown here. There is no one to punish them after her death. So, the time has come to protect the rules and only Rebecca can do it. With every word, Eulalia's face becomes demonic, a hellish form lost in darkness. Hours pass. The guard is woken by the song. High heels click from one end of the corridor closer and closer. Suddenly, seeing the surgery tray move on its own, the guard is startled. He enters with Rebecca's key and sees bloody meat on the table. Checking the next cabin, he is horrified. Luciana is tied up, and Eulalia is carving meat from her chest. Luciana is screaming in pain. Seeing this, the guard tries to flee but sees all patients dying for strange reasons. Eulalia's first victim is the guard. Rebecca tries to free Luciana and flee, but Suarez arrives, and Eulalia kills him. The event doesn't stop there. Rebecca tries to save others but fails. Hearing screams, Arturo walks in and becomes Eulalia's victim. While trying to save him, the surgical knife in Rebecca's hand accidentally enters Arturo's head, killing him. Dalton arrives, and Eulalia brutally splits his face in two. Strangely, before dying, Dalton kept apologizing to Rebecca. After this massacre, the police arrive. Rebecca states that Eulalia killed everyone, Eulalia the La Planchada. But when police watch the CCTV footage, they are shocked, and a surprising twist is revealed. The video shows that no supernatural power was behind the events. Rebecca herself is responsible. The investigation reveals that Rebecca was physically abused by her father since childhood, which created a distorted psyche. Eventually, she lost control and tortured her father to death. After being arrested, she was kept in Juarez Hospital for mental health, but she escaped one day and joined the same hospital as a nurse years later under a different name. This is why Hortensia had asked if she had seen her before. Also, Rebecca intentionally stole her documents so her identity wouldn't be revealed. She thought she could bury her past by serving as a nurse. But the injustice in the hospital reawakened her dark side. The trauma of her father's abuse was resurrected by Dalton. When she found the news of Eulalia's death, she began imagining herself as La Planchada. From the start, there was no supernatural Eulalia or La Planchada. It was all Rebecca's madness. While she thought she was seeing Eulalia kill Vanessa, Luciana, Arturo, and Dalton, it was actually Rebecca herself finishing them. After the truth is revealed, Rebecca cannot accept it. It's like a dream world to her. In her guilt and self-loathing, she sees Eulalia in the officer and attacks him. After killing him, Rebecca leaves some deep questions for everyone. Was it really all Rebecca's fault? Or the fault of the father who broke her body and mind? Or the society that never saw her mental wounds? La Planchada was a folklore, but in Rebecca's life, it was her final refuge from her past. And when someone starts living as if their imagination is real, something terrifying is bound to happen. So friends, how did you like the video? Let me know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. See you in the next story.